Greetings and salutations, everyone. The Winter King here. Decided to do something a bit different. Haven't really seen this done before. It probably has been. I mean, there's so many of you out there that are doing, sharing your movies and doing movie reviews and all kinds of stuff. So someone is bound to have done this. But what I'm going to do is actually show movies, but I'm not going to talk about the movies. In fact, what I'm going to talk about is memories. These very special movies to me, every time I put them in, or I see them on my shelf, or see them in stores or whatever, they evoke a memory. And that's what I decided I wanted to talk about. So, with that in mind, since I have quite a few, and I'm hoping I won't have to split this in two, because these are some pretty good memories. Anyways, the first one I'm going to show you is Hang 'em High. And this is I believe it's the Blu-ray, yeah, it's the Blu-ray DVD combo. Anyways, Hang 'em High. This movie, it brings back a memory of my father. Simple that he said to me that this was actually the first movie I ever watched. I was a tiny little baby, wasn't even a year old yet, and he said in Hawaii, where he was stationed, yes, I was an Army brat, but anyways, in Hawaii, they went to a drive-in theater. Well, this was playing at something else, I don't remember, but he just simply said, it pointed this one out to me, because I was in the back seat, and my mom was passed out in the passenger seat, and he was watching the movie. But he said he kept looking back at me, and I had that little pacifier binky thing in my mouth, and I was just sucking away on the thing, watching the movie. He said I stayed awake for the entire movie, never once taking my eyes off the screen. You know, so that's every time I see this. And I had to add it to my collection it's a great movie, but I had to add it to my collection just because of that, because of what he told me, and that this was my very, very first movie I have ever watched in my life. Now, these are all out of order and everything, so this one, it's a good thing, but it was at a very rough time in my life. This takes me back to Washington, D.C., Walter Reed Army Hospital, where I had my first surgery. And it was a very hard time for me because I did not know what was going on or what to expect from the surgeons. I'm sure you guys have heard horror stories about Walter Reed, and some of the new guys coming out don't have to experience that, but the stories weren't lies, and there was a lot of tough things that were going on. But the good thing that came out of this, and what this reminds me of, yes, it takes me back to that first surgery that I had, which I wish I never would have had, but that my mother surprised me. She actually flew out from California to be a support to me, knowing that how the military works and everything, herself being an Army brat and growing up in that world, that she decided, she's a nurse, or was a nurse, she's retired now, but she decided to come out there and give me some support and to be there for me during that really tough time in my life. And I remember she took me to the movies. Actually, I got signed out of the hospital, which was amazing. They never allowed anybody out, but for whatever reason, they allowed us out. And we were traveling around Washington, D.C., and she decided to take me to go see this movie. And I'll never forget that. Speaking of which, Phantasm. Oh my God, this one brings back really wonderful memories. Once again, another drive-in story, but I was 13, and I remember my mother decided to take just myself and the neighbor kid down the street to go see this movie. She cannot stand horror movies, but she wanted to take me and this other, my friend, to go see this, because we really wanted to, really bad. And this is around the time that my dad also left us. But that's not the that's not the bad part. And trust me, that's actually not a bad thing. That he left. It actually was a good thing. But anyways, this movie, I remember sitting in the drive-in theater because my mother doesn't like horror movies. She climbed into the back seat and went to sleep. And my buddy and I sat there watching this, and we were just, 13 years old. We were so freaked out, but we thought it was just awesome. And he thought my mom was the coolest woman on the planet because here she would take out a 12 and a 13-year-old. Yes, we had his parents' permission too, but would take us to the drive-in to see a horror movie. It was, my mom she's the best. She is the best. Christine, the memory this evokes is being in high school, waiting up all hours of the night for them to blow up the gas station and to see it for ourselves. Oh my God. And when it finally blew, because they only had one chance at it, they blew that sucker up, and it was awesome. Every time I see this, I think of sitting up on the hoods of our cars, waiting and talking and meeting some really cool other people, and then worry because we had to wake up for school the next day, and we decided no, we're going to stay up all night and we'll all go to school in the morning, but we have to see this place blow up. And we did, and I am so happy. It brings back a wonderful, wonderful memory. Here's another one. I remember staying up, and, where I grew up, they filmed a lot of movies. You can look it up. It's called Valencia, but at the time, or Santa Clarita it's called now, but it's broken up into 4 little cities, they're little cities, little towns, or whatever you want to call them, but they're broken up, and there's 4 of them. You have Saugus, Canyon Country, Valencia, and Newhall. And they form what they changed it, now city of Santa Clarita. Anyways, there is an assload of actors, an assload of producers, and people that work in movies live in that area. Okay? And plus they have a lot of movie studios, and they shoot a lot of movies there. Christine was one that was shot there. Return of the Living Dead 2 was shot there. And there's a few other movies that I'll be showing you that were shot there also. Anyways, this one was literally, a few streets over from where my house was when I was growing up, and actually where my mom still lives. Now, of course, it's all built up. But the scene, of course, it's not here. Why was I thinking it was on here? Anyways, where they're running through the houses, and, they're not built houses, they're just skeleton frames of the homes. And that scene, I remember we were there because the next day, after they had filmed it, we watched them film, a lot of this movie there and in our area. But I remember we went down and started messing around in the homes, acting like we were zombies and shit. It was fun. Just, it was just innocence. It was just a time of just fun. This one, Pump Up the Volume. I know, you're going to think, what the hell kind of memory would this bring up? Something to do with pirate radio? No. This movie was actually filmed at my high school. Like I told you, where I lived, a lot of films were made. They call it Hubert Humphrey High, but there's a scene where they're walking. It's actually the library is the scene I'm talking about, but you that have never been there wouldn't know this. But if you pay attention on the building, you'll see there's a mess up. It doesn't say Hubert Humphrey High. It says Saugus High School. That's where I graduated from. And that pipe scene where you got all the vehicles and there's a football field and there's this huge pipe coming down the hill. Yeah, my mother's house, other side of that pipe. I'm not lying. I used to walk under that pipe to get to school. Like I said, every time I watch that, look at that, it brings back an ass load of memories. Here's one. This brings me back to Saturday mornings with my dad, when we used to watch, or my dad said, God, how I love that Trashy Broad. Just every time I see Elvira, I think of sitting up there, waking up as a young kid. Yep, you know, I was a little guy, and my father sitting on the couch watching Elvira with a smile on his face. Brought these two out. I have other editions. I don't know why I grabbed both of them. This takes me back to the first time I met my wife. And I met her on Halloween. She came to my house. I was flat broke, couldn't do anything, and I had invited a bunch of friends, and they invited some people. And she came in, and, you know, I just, when she walked through that door, man, you know, there was just something about her. And all night, I just kept, you know, looking over and glancing at her. And yes, I pursued her. And I'm so happy that I did. Here's a question for you guys out there. Looking at these two movies and hearing what I just said, can you guess my wedding anniversary date? If paying attention, you would. The Shining. Wow. This takes me back to when we actually went to Yosemite, and we used to do it every Easter. And just, you know, it was just, families would just go. And I remember my dad wasn't around, but my mom would take us out there. And I remember the hotel where they filmed this one, not the True Stanley Hotel, but where they filmed this one is actually in Yosemite. And I remember going there that night after we learned of it, and I was in high school, and I remember, oh my God, it was so foggy, and all of a sudden a pack of coyotes came wandering out. We had our bicycles, but we weren't riding them because we couldn't really see all that great, and the fog lifted, and just coming out of the trees from around there came this pack of coyotes. Oh man, my brother and I, we just about shit ourselves. We couldn't believe it. We just stood still, and they all just stopped. There was about 5 of them. They just stopped and stared at us, and we just stopped and just stared at them. I swear to God, it lasted forever. But that's the type of things that my brother and I, we just always went on these crazy, wild adventures, and this movie brings that back. This one, this is the serial version. This is the one they used to show in movie theaters, the black and white one. As you can see with, what's his name, Buster Crabbe. Yeah, that was it. He played Flash Gordon. This one brings back memories of sitting down, talking to my Nana, and her telling me how she used to send my mom with a quarter to go see the movies. And my mom would always come back telling her the whole thing about Flash Gordon, because she just loved Flash Gordon as a girl growing up and seeing this. So, added it to my collection, and it makes me think of my Nana. Sorry about the cover. As you can see, it is the actual movie. Sometimes you get these things for like $1, just this without the cover, but whatever, I just threw these things together. This is Cheech and Chong's Things Are Tough All Over. This one takes me back to my mom, because this was a movie that my mom and I sat down, and in fact it's the only Cheech and Chong movie that she sat down with me, and we just laughed our asses off. It was a fun time. It was just the two of us. My brother was gone and my sister was gone too. It was just the two of us just sitting there. Oh, okay. It's like I have room for one more, and then I'm going to have to do a part 2. Creepshow. This one brings back a memory. The same kid, the exact same kid that went with me to go see Phantasm, but this time, you know, we're older. We're, you know, in high school. And well, there's all of us. There's a bunch of us. And we go into the movie theater, and it gets to the final scene with the bugs. You know, right there, the guy with the bugs. And my buddy freaked out, jumped over the chair, and ran out of the movie theater. We never let him live that down. Well, okay, this is going on to part 2.